Okay, so if you look at the syllabus, we have covered the first module, that is introduction to www. That is, we have covered all the various protocols that was mentioned, how the web works, and we have seen HTTP protocol, and we have also seen how to set up any development environment, right? So we have seen Laragon example, and I have shown you the website of how to download XAMPP also. Okay, and I will be separately creating a video on XAMPP, and in fact some few other environment also like WAMP, and there are few more. And finally you can decide which one you like. Okay, so now today we will start with the second module. Okay, in the second module, you can see it is named as client-side programming, and which consists of basically two parts. The first part is the HTML part, and the second part is the CSS part. Okay, so both of them we are going to see, but first let us begin with HTML. Okay, and if you look at the outcomes, we have till now covered the first outcome. Okay, so we have finished with the first outcome of the subject to understand the core concepts and features of web technology. Okay, so the second outcome that we will be covering will be of the second module, that is to basically understand what is HTML5 and CSS3. Okay, so let us begin. So in the second module, we will, that is titled as client-side programming, we will start with HTML in this particular week and in the next week. And in the following 2 weeks, we will be covering CSS. Okay, so basically we'll be requiring 4 weeks for this. This could be completed in 2 weeks also, but I want to show you some core concepts. Okay, so for that I will be needing 2 extra weeks. Okay, so let us begin. So now what is HTML? Okay, so now this topic many of you may be familiar with already, HTML and CSS. It's possible that you have learned this in your 11th or 12th standard. Okay, or in your diplomas, right? So just listen to what I'm saying and try to absorb whatever possible. And if you know, it is a good thing. If you don't know, then it is it will just help you in understanding what is HTML. Okay, now HTML stands for hypertext markup language. Okay, so as the definition says, it is used to show documents, documents on a web browser. Okay, so basically whatever web pages that you see, we see all the web pages on the internet with the help of hypertext markup language. Okay, so basically HTML language. Now this file can have any extension, like it can be a PHP file, it can be a JSP file, it can be a Python file. But in any case, if a browser is rendering the file, then it has to be the output of that particular language has to be in HTML. Okay, in fact later on we will be studying about PHP, and the full form of PHP is hypertext preprocessor. Okay, so from the full form itself you can understand that when is PHP going to come into picture. Okay, so that means preprocessor, hypertext preprocessor means before rendering the HTML, PHP is going to run. Okay, so it is the same way for all the other languages. Okay, so basically one thing you should understand is many of the time I have students asking me, sir, in Python how do we design a web page? Okay, or in Java how do we design a web page? Okay, so always remember, whether it is Python, whether it is PHP, whether it is any language, output of the HTML output that is shown on the web browser is most of the times HTML. Okay, And sometimes there are some other languages also that are used, like I will show you here. Okay, so but 90% of the times it is going to be HTML, and whatever we are going to study is also going to be HTML. Okay, so always remember whichever language, because these languages, they are only changing the contents of the HTML file. Okay, it is not doing anything other than that. It is not creating any new language for displaying on the web browser. Okay, so that thing you have to understand. Now, why it is called hypertext, I have already mentioned. Okay, so hypertext is nothing but it's like a page with which can have links to other pages. Okay, so basically that type kind of a page is called hypertext. Okay, so those links, that links can be of images, it can be of video, it can be links to other pages. Okay, so it can be anything. So basically a normal text file will not have these features, but HTML file can have links to other things. That's why it is called HTML. Now, is this the only language available, HTML? No, there are a lot of languages. There are more than 1,000 languages which use markup syntax. Okay, so these are some of them, and I don't know how many you must have heard. At least I think you must have heard about RTF, rich text format. Okay, and ODF, that is open document format. If anybody has used LibreOffice or OpenOffice, their files are saved in ODF format. Okay, then there is this markdown which we use in Git, and in fact this particular presentation I can make it using markdown. So like that, there are lots of things where markdown is very popular nowadays. Many blog sites also use markdown language. Okay, then there are others also, like XML, that we are going to study in the second last module. Then this is another very famous markdown language, which is called text, which we may have a course on later, which is basically very important for students, and in fact anybody who writes their papers. Okay, papers or books, because text is basically a language from where you can format your documents where uniformly. Okay, so you will be having fixed syntax to format, and you can use that to format. So we will cover this in detail in some other course, where I will teach you how to create your report using text. Okay, instead of everybody uses Word for creating their documents, right? But the standard way a research student or a technical student should use is text. Okay, so once you start using text, you will never use Word again to create any uh, research papers or anything. Okay, so next we will see the history, that is the various versions that are been there. So obviously this language was invented by Tim Berners-Lee, the same person who invented the internet. Okay, the first version he created was in 1993, that is HTML version 1. It had certain flaws, and so over the years you can see it was revised quite a lot. So 2.0, 3.2, then 4.0 was used for a long time. You can see the difference from 1999 till 2014. Okay, so around a decade it was used, HTML4. And then HTML4 also had a lot of problems, because of which we currently are using HTML5. And HTML5 makes the life of a developer very easy. Okay, in the sense that there are lot of tags, additional tags that are introduced. Like you can add audio tags. Previously there were no audio tags or video tags, so now you can add audio, you can add video. So like that, there are lots of other things. There are there is canvas option, where you can use the browser's window to draw on it. So like that, there are lots of features HTML5 has added. Also, major difference between HTML4 and HTML5 is HTML4, the CSS style sheets need to be there inside your web page itself. Okay, so you cannot extract the style sheet outside. Okay, so this you will understand later when we start with CSS. And HTML5 added the support for adding additional external style sheets. Okay, so we'll see that feature later. So let's begin with HTML. The first difference, before we start with HTML or HTML language, you should see, you should understand that in any HTML document, the first line that is there is basically the doc type. Okay. So now here you can see the difference, straight away you can see the difference between HTML4 and HTML5. Okay. So in HTML4, you can see the type, the doc type that you had to put. Okay. So these are not, these, all the three lines need not be there. You have to select any one line. Okay. So in your doc type, you can have this one or this one or this one. Okay. So now this depends on which type of document type you are trying to use. Okay. So document type is nothing but, it is telling you that you should follow certain standards to write your code. Okay. So there are some strict standards, there are some loose standards. So if you want to follow strict standards, you have to use this. If you want to follow loose standards, and then there are some other intermediate standards also. Okay. So that was the doc type for HTML4. But nowadays you will see that everything has become very simple. Just add this one line and your doc type is done. Okay. So we are going to use one common doc type for all the types of documents. Okay. So that is very good for, as far as HTML5 is considered. Next, now we can start by, now we can stop this presentation and I will show you various tags that are there. Okay. So now before going ahead and writing the code, I would like to tell you the environment that you need to have to write an HTML code. Okay. So now I will show you three different environments. Now you can decide whichever you like. The first environment is, let's say I create a new folder. Okay, so I created a folder and I open that folder, and here I will use only a notepad. Okay. I will use right click. I will create a new file called index.html and I will go to open with, and I will select, choose another app. Right now it is not there in my list. So you can see if I go down here also it is not there. Let me just find out. You can see there is notepad. I can select that, click open, and you can use this. But now here also you can write your code. Okay. So I'm not writing the actual code. I'm just going to show you. Okay. So if I write hello and if I open it, you can see it shows hello. Okay. So this is one way of doing it, that is using the notepad, but I will never use it. Okay. So that is not the way I do it. Okay. Now for all those who have a computer with them, they can install Visual Studio Code. Okay. So I have already installed it. If you do not have it, then you can go to Google and you can just search for Visual Studio Code. Okay. And click on other platforms. Okay. I suppose, yes. Click on other platforms. The reason why I went for other platforms is, even though Windows was showing, I will not click on this directly. Instead, I will, because if you click on this, it will download the user installer. Okay. I don't want the user installer. I want 64-bit system installer. Okay. So I will take that, download it. It will completely depend on which type of processor you have. If it's a 64-bit, you can download 64-bit. If it's a 32-bit, you can download 32-bit. Okay. So based on that, you can download your installer, and then you can install it. Okay, it's where there is no rocket science in it. Just click next, 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 and it is installed. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that you have to download the system installer. Okay, so once that is installed, you will get something like this. Okay, so you can search and you can open it. So once you open it, this window will be opened. Okay, so now here you can go and go to file and select on open folder, and you can go to the desktop where I've created that folder. Let's say WDL1, this is the my project folder. Okay, so if I select that folder, you can see it opens the folder on the left side. Okay, so now here I can start writing my code. Okay, so to create a new file, you can just press this button. To create a new folder, you can press this button. Okay, and if at any time something doesn't sync properly, like for example, there is a folder in your there is a folder here, but it is not showing in Visual Studio, then just click refresh. Okay, so let's create our first file, index.html. Press enter and it opens it in your editor. Okay, so once that is done, now you can start writing the code. Okay, so I'm just writing, no, I'm not writing HTML right now, I'm just writing some text. Okay, so once that is done, you can see I can open it like this and it works. Okay, so but this is again not the way I would prefer. Okay, because now let's say I let me just open that file again. Let me just go over here, open. Okay, so this is hello. Now if I change it to hello world and if I save it, then to see the changes, you can see the changes are not reflected. So again, I have to refresh. So now the changes are reflected. Okay, so now just imagine you are doing your coding and every time you have to refresh. Okay, so that is really frustrating, right? So what I usually use is I go to the extensions part. Okay, so in the extensions part, I will search for live server. Okay, so you can see I just search for live and it comes over here, and you can see I have already installed the server on my computer. If it is not installed, there will be an install button and you can click on that and it will be installed. Okay, so once that is installed, what advantage it gives you, that is the most important part. You can just right click that particular file and you can see now a new menu comes in, that is open with live server. Okay, so now if I open that, let's see what happens. Okay, so it opens it, nothing new. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, instead of doing it like this, I'm going to stack this. I'm going to drag it down, take it to the side, and it comes to this side, and I select Visual Studio on the other side. Okay, so now you can see I have both the windows side by side. Okay, so now the advantage of live server is, as soon as I save, okay, so is the live server running? Let me just check. Okay, so basically my HTML code is not complete, so let me just write some HTML code. Okay, so if I refresh and let me just close it again and start the live server. Okay, so now my document is open. Let me write hello and save. You can see it automatically opens the, or basically refreshes. So now let me just add another text and save. You can see you don't have to refresh or do anything. You save over here, immediately the contents are reflected on the right side. Okay, so that is the advantage of using live server with Visual Studio Code. Okay, so that is one option. I will show you one last option that I would like. I think many of you may also like that, and that is, and this is the way you will be submitting your assignments also. Okay, so it is called Code Pen. Okay, So you can create a account in this, and I have already created an account. It is free. So you can just click on the your DP, and it will open this particular thing, and you can create a new pen. Okay, so as soon as you create a new pen, this window opens. Okay, and now here you can again do the same thing, and you can write and press save, and immediately your code should come. Where is it? Okay, it is still loading. Okay, let me just create a new pen. Okay, so now I just created a new pen, and you can see the contents are coming over here. Okay, so now let me say hello world. If I save, and you can see immediately the page, the contents are updated over here. Okay, so this is another way. If you do not have a computer at home and you want to do it in your mobile phone, then you can obviously use this. Okay, and once now this pen is stored with this link. Okay, so the best part is you can just copy this link, and I will just open it in a new incognito window. And if I open this, you can see it opens the pen. Okay, so now in this case, with the help of this code pen, I can now check your I can check the assignment that you submit. Okay, so I can see the code also at the same time. I can see the view also directly in single page. Okay, so what I want to do is what I want you to do is, you have whatever assignments will be there, you have to do it in code pen, and you have to just submit the link in the submission. Okay, so I have shown you all the different options that are there. Now let us come back and start learning Visual Studio Code. Okay, so let me just open this again, take this. Okay, so that is set now. Let me clear everything out. And okay, let me just increase the font a little. Okay, cool. Any doubts still here? Okay, so Saurabh is asking, can you explain again how to use Visual Studio with live server? Okay, sure. So what you have to do is you just open your folder. Okay, so basically I have shown you this method. That is, you just go to file, open folder, and select the project folder. Okay, in my case, this is WDL1 is my project folder. And or else what you can do is you can just right click the folder, your project folder, and just do open with code. Okay, directly. So that also opens the same thing. Okay, now once that is done, you can see this is the Explorer bar. Okay, so if you click on this, it will show you the Explorer. If you click again, it will hide it. Okay, so if I press on that, you can see the file that are currently there. Okay, so I can create new files by clicking this button. Okay, so let me create another file, and I have created a new file and opened it also. Okay, so there are two files now, index.html and test.html. Okay, and if you want to create a folder, you can see I have created a folder also, but for that I have to use the second button, and you can click refresh to sync the folders. Okay, So once that is done, now to run this, without you manually refreshing it, then you have to install an extension. You have to go to this particular button, which is for extension, and you have to search for live over here. And the live server uh, that will be coming some by Ritwik Day. Okay, so this is the developer who has created this live server. Just click on it and click on install. Okay, in my case it is already installed, that's why that button is not coming. Otherwise this kind of a button, like here in other packages you can see install button, so that kind of a button will come. Just install it. Once it is installed, go back to your Explorer, whichever file you want to edit live. Okay, so just right click on that, select open with live server, and it will open. Okay, only thing is you can see the error that live reload is telling you, that there is no head or body tag. Okay, so this live reload does not work without a head or body. Okay, so if I just type something over here, it will not work. It has to be an actual HTML document. Okay, so that we will learn. Okay, only advantage of a live server is whatever changes you do, you can see it live without refreshing the page. Okay, so that is the advantage. Any other doubts? Okay, sir, what about Meta? Is it compulsory to use that? Okay, so all those things I will cover in the future, that I will show you all these things in the future. Right now, we will take it slow. We will learn the basic tags and then we will study the advanced tags. Okay. Josefa is asking, sir, using of brackets will also be better because it is already has a live preview tag. Okay. Now, Josefa, the choice of editor is completely yours. In fact, I don't know how many of you know, uh, uh, I don't know if you know about JetBrains or not, but for PHP development, PHP Storm is the most popular, paid software that is out there, which has everything. I mean, by type hinting to intelligent intelligence and everything is there in PHP Storm. But I personally prefer to use Visual Studio Code because that is the most popular editor right now. Even though it is new, but it is the most popular. And not only that, it is highly extensible and you can see the popularity. I agree, brackets is also a very good editor for HTML, but then you're limited to HTML only. Okay, so in PHP, sorry, when you're developing with other languages, like not only PHP, many other languages, then Visual Studio can adapt to anything. Okay, like for example, if you just go to your extensions, by default it is not it will not work for PHP or any other language, right? But you can just write PHP over here
या
and you
उसका
can
एक नीचे कनेक्टिविटी और वो सब मैं इसलिए तुमको पूछ रही थी मैंने सिर्फ अभी तक यूआई बनाई
please
हूँ
mute yourself. Okay, so you can see the various packages that are there, that are available with PHP. Same for Java. You can see the Java extension package, in fact Node.js. So you can see the various packages that are available for various languages. Okay, so you can decide your language, but it's like one editor for every language. Okay, uh, so basically it comes out straight blank, then you can extend it the way you want. Okay, but again, this is my choice. I am not forcing anybody to use this. Whoever likes whichever editor, they can use that editor. Okay, so now, any doubts still here? Any other doubts? Okay, so now another feature I like about Visual Studio Code, which is in fact there in all the major uh, text editors out there, is called Emmet. Okay, There any question? Okay, so attendance is coming in. Okay. Okay, Hamza is asking, is there any way to run PHP code without a live server like XAMPP or anything? Okay, Hamza, there is server support in PHP itself. Okay, so we will see that once we start learning Laravel. So there we will see, or we can start learning that once we start learning PHP. Okay, so at that time I will show you how to host any file using PHP directly without even setting up a XAMPP or Laragon server. Okay, so it is possible, but commercially whenever you host, it is not preferred. Okay, so because the PHP's web server is not yet suited for multitasking, or it is basically like a dev server. Okay, so it is good for development, but as soon as production comes into place, if you want to release the software, if you want to publish the software somewhere on some website, then that website cannot use this PHP server, because that multitasking feature or multiple request handling feature is not yet there properly. So that is where Nginx and Apache plays a vital role on handling multiple requests at the same time. Okay, so that's why we still use Apache or Nginx server for that. Any other queries? Okay, Rehan Ali is asking, please suggest us some good video for setting up VS Code for web dev. In fact, in this entire subject, we will be doing that only. Okay, so I will be explaining, I will be showing my way of doing it. Now, you may like it or you may not like it. It's a personal choice. Okay, so over the years, I have used this. In fact, I have used many such things. In fact, before using Visual Studio Code, okay, before this was released, I used to use Sublime. Okay, and even before Sublime, I used to use PHP Storm. Okay, and all those were great softwares, I agree. And in fact, still Sublime, I always have Sublime installed on my PC. If you can see, whether you can see, Sublime is always there. Okay, so Sublime, the advantage is it's very small, it is very fast. Okay, and I like the look and feel of it. Okay, but it is Visual Studio Code is much more extensible. That's why I use Visual Studio Code. And as far as which extensions to install, everything, I will be explaining each and everything, which extensions I use. Okay, so don't worry about that. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so let's start now. Another feature that I like about Visual Studio Code and all the other editors out there is a sort of feature called Emmet. Okay, now Emmet is basically some tool to help you write HTML code faster. Okay, so like for example, if I actually want to write HTML code, then you can see what all things I have to write, right? So I have to write the doc type, then other things like HTML, then the body. Okay, so you can see it is going to take some time, because every document is going to have these common things. Okay, so Emmet comes into picture, and you can just type the exclamation mark, okay, and press tab. Okay, so this tab is very important. Tab character, that is above caps lock icon. Okay, caps lock button. Okay, so you just press exclamation mark and then press tab, and you can see what it immediately does. Okay, let me just, okay, so you can see what it immediately does is it generates the boilerplate for your HTML code. Okay, so it does produce some extra things. Okay, so we will not be looking at everything right now. I'm just going to remove some of them because right now we are not going to cover all those things. Okay, so this is what I want. Okay, so this is the boilerplate that I want, and all these things are customizable. I will show you later how to create your own snippets also. Okay, so now this is how your HTML document looks like. Okay, so basically it starts with a doc type. Always remember it should have a doc type, and then it should have something called as the first the root element of your HTML document, that is an HTML tag. Okay, so always remember HTML will always have an opening tag and a closing tag. Okay, and the name of the tags will be same. Only difference is in the closing tag there will be a slash. Okay, like this. Okay, so you can see the tag, all the tags start with a less than symbol and a greater than symbol. Okay, and in between there will be the tag name. Okay, and a similar kind of a thing except this slash, which will tell that that particular tag has ended. Okay, so that is the HTML tag, and every HTML document should have one and only one HTML root element. You cannot have multiple HTML root element. Okay, now inside that you can see there are two other elements again which you can have only one, that is head. Okay, one is head. You should have one, you can have one head element. Similarly you can have one body element. Okay, so these things are mandatory. Okay, now title is not mandatory as such. So this is the basic structure of your HTML page. Okay, so here your head, you can see again has a starting tag and an ending tag. Okay, so that means this head starts from here, closes at this particular place. Similarly body closes at this particular place. Okay, so whatever is there inside body should come in between these tags. Whatever is there in the head should come in between the head tag. Okay, so let us add back the title. So now you can see this is the next tag that we are going to see, that is a title tag. Okay, now the title tag is nothing but the thing that you see on top of the uh, web page. Okay, on the browser's window. Okay, so let me just show you what I mean. I will just write my name over here. Okay, and then I want to see the output now. Okay, so I will just open it in live server. Okay, so it opened it over here, and you can see, I don't know if you can see or not, you can see the name comes up over here. Okay, so this is where the title reflects. If I change this, you can see it, the title updates. Okay, so that is where the title plays an important role. So basically, in fact, if you right click and not right click, you can just drag over here and add it over here. You can see when I create a bookmark, my bookmark is already full. uh, Let me just put it over here. You can see the name that the website takes is the title of the page. Okay, so you can see it helps a lot when you are trying to bookmark your page. Okay, so this name should be reasonable. Okay, you should not type anything unwanted over here. It should be something meaningful over here, what the page says. Okay, so that will help in bookmarking the page also. So once that is done, this body part is where we are actually going to do everything. That is, the body part is where we are going to type our contents, which will be displayed on the page. Okay, let's say for example I write hello, so you can see immediately the hello appears over here. Okay, so let me just zoom it a little. Okay, so I change this, it changes over here. Right now, the difference between, can anyone tell me uh, why is head required and why is body required? Okay, When do we use head and when do we use body? Can anyone tell me? Body is for the content. Body is for the main web page content. Okay. Head is a container. Any other suggestions? Rehan is saying head is used for including files and title. Okay. Anyone else has any suggestions or any answers to this? All of the page content, Rehan Ali is saying all of the page content is in body tag. Okay. Salik Ansari, head is used to add CSS styles. Very good. Shabina, head content will not be displayed on the screen, right? Rizwan is saying head is used to link CSS and many different files. Okay. So I think I have, okay, Huzefa, if you don't want the content to be visible, then we write inside head tag, whereas in body content are visible in the web page. Very good, Josefa. Okay, now everybody is right. Okay, there is one more, I think. Head is used for title. Okay, Sumit Kumar. Okay. Okay, now everybody is right. Now let me tell you my observation. Okay, so what I have studied over the years and what I understand over the years is, uh, obviously, whatever you are saying, that to include CSS files or include JavaScript files, we use head. It is not like that. You can do it in body also. Okay, so if I want, I can include the CSS file over here also. Okay, it will not it will not be like it will not work. Okay, but there is some flaws with this. Okay, so there is a specific reason why we uh, use, we include all the files in the head part. Okay, I will explain you why. Okay, there is one more. Exactly, Rizwan, this was the answer I was expecting. Okay, I was actually looking for this answer only. So this is what I have understood over the years, that the reason why all the CSS files, mainly the CSS files, not the scripting files, the CSS files, external CSS files are included in the head file, head region, and not in the body. Okay, now the reason is, just imagine, one thing to note is when the document is processed by the browser, the head part is processed first and then the body part is processed after that. Okay, so now what happens is, uh, uh, if you put all the CSS at the end of the body tag. Okay, so let's suppose I am putting the CSS over here. Okay, after all the content. So what happens is CSS, once we learn CSS, you will understand that CSS is the place where the actual magic happens. Okay, so the page looks the way it looks is because of the CSS. Okay, now imagine if the CSS is not loaded before the contents, what will happen? Okay, so everything will look haywire. Okay, so everything will be here and there will be no colors, or there will be no proper positions of the elements. Everything will be lost. Okay, so if there is a developer who does this, okay, who puts the CSS after the body or after the contents, then you will see this effect in slow browsers, that your page will look something else for some time, and after the page loads it will look something different completely. Okay, so that is a very bad scenario for a developer, where such kind of things will happen. So always remember, all the CSS files we put it on the head file, because that helps, that will help the browser to load the CSS first and then load the contents. Okay. And the second thing is JavaScript files, external JavaScript files, we put it at the end. Okay. That is after all the content. So the script tags of all the JavaScript will be at the end, because uh, script now normally JavaScript are based on user interactions. Okay. Now just imagine, when will the user interact? The user will only interact after the page loads, right? So there is no need to load the JavaScript beforehand. Okay. You can, obviously you can load JavaScript also in the head file, but that will take much more time, because then JavaScript, you have to wait for the page to load till all the JavaScript file also loads. Okay. So as a standard, what normally developers do is, all the CSS files, they put it in the head, all the JavaScript files, they put it at the body after, before the closing body tag. Okay. So that is somewhere over here. Okay. Any doubts still here? Okay. There are 3 more questions, I think. Shaista is, it will not access the beginning if used in body. Yes, exactly, Shaista. Okay. So I hope you have understood this part. Okay. So let's, is it clear till here? Any doubts where to put CSS and where to put? So we will see this in detail when we start with CSS. Okay. So for the time being, this is our structure where we have a doc type. Okay. This is the mandatory structure. Everybody should have minimum this much. Okay. So there is a head, there has to be a single head, and there has to be a single body. Inside head, there will be many more things that we will see later, but for the time being, we will be adding only title. Okay. And then we will be having a body tag, where we are going to put all the tags that we are going to learn. Okay. Okay. Rehan Ali, will you be teaching us any frameworks? Okay. Rehan, is this your first lecture? Uh, I have already explained the topics that we are going to cover, and Laravel is there in your syllabus also. Okay. So if I get more time, I will be covering much more in detail of Laravel, because an entire semester we can learn only Laravel. Okay. So it is a very huge subject, but in your case only the base, very minimum is there in your syllabus, but I will try to cover maximum possible. Okay. So let's see how much time we get. Based on that, we will cover the Laravel framework in detail. Okay. So for the time being, I know many of you may be already aware of HTML, so you may be thinking ye sab to aata hai, right? But there are few people who may not be knowing this, so that's why I am covering this. Okay. So let's start with the tags quickly. So the first tag that we are going to learn is, no, basically whenever we start with the, the tags which help us, showing the basic tag, or basically the basic information onto the page, right? So there are something called as head tags. Okay. So there are 6 head tags that are available in your HTML language. Starts with H1. Okay. I will just write the different tags. I will just, in VS Code, if you do Control Shift and D, you can duplicate the code multiple times. Okay. So I have duplicated it multiple times, and now I'm going to change it. So I'm going to select and press Shift D to change both of them together. Okay. H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. Okay. So I just want to show you how these various head elements look. Okay, these are looking quite big right now because I am zoomed in. Let me just reset, and you can see how actually this looks. Okay, now obviously we are not going to rely on the styles of this particular browser. Okay, now you cannot rely completely on this. Okay, so it is possible that hello is looking something like this in Chrome, and in Firefox it will be showing you in some other size. Okay, it will be slightly bigger or it will be slightly smaller. Okay, the reason is every browser has a default style sheet. Okay, and that style sheet is applied onto the elements. Okay, so every element has a default style sheet applied by the browser, right? So if you do not override it, then that style sheet will be applied. Okay, and always remember, we are going to override each and everything when we start developing. Okay, we may change the color, we may change the size, we may change the weight, everything. Okay, so for the time being we were just going to look at the tags. Okay, so you can see I have created all these tags. Now let me type any text. Okay, now uh, in what do you say, in Visual Studio Code, if you want some paragraph in your, sorry, in some text in your what do you say, editor, then you just have to press lorem, and if you press tab, you can see it has generated a paragraph. Okay, now this is helpful when you want to, simply uh, what do you say, you want some dummy data on your page. Okay, so I've created a dummy data, right? And now there are other features also, like lorem 100. Okay, so if you press lorem 100, it will create a much more bigger paragraph. Okay, let me just save and show you. Okay, so now in this case this paragraph will have 100 characters. Okay, so like that you can create any content of any size. Okay, you can create lorem 500, lorem, like that. Okay, so let me just undo that. Okay, so I have created one text. Okay, so now I want to show you something called as paragraph tag. Okay, so it is called P, and you can see how I'm typing this tag. Okay, so in a normal editor you will write P, then close it, and Visual Studio automatically closes the tag for you. Okay, and if you're doing it in Notepad, then again you have to close the tag manually. Okay, but if you're using Emmet, there is a wonderful advantage of Emmet is you can just press P, the name of the tag, and press tab. Okay, so it will automatically complete everything for you. It will add the brackets and everything. Okay, so like for example, let's take some other tag. Let's say for example H1. Okay, so H1 tab. Okay, so it automatically completes it for you. Okay, so once this is done, let us add a paragraph tag, and now let me add a lorem over here, and let me save it. Okay, so you can see the advantage. Now here right now you will not see the advantage of paragraph. Let me just undo it, and let me do lorem. Okay, so this is one paragraph. Then again let me do lorem. This is another paragraph. So I have two paragraphs, and you can see the difference. Even though these two paragraphs were on separate lines, for HTML they are continuous. Okay, so it started from here. Okay, but if you want them to be on separate lines or separate paragraphs, then what you do is you put them inside paragraph. Okay, now if I save it, you can see now they are on separate paragraphs. Okay, so that is the use of a paragraph tag. Okay, next let us see what other things we have to cover. Okay, now break and HR. Okay, now this same thing I can do. Let me just undo it again. Let me just do lorem. Okay, one lorem. So I have two lorems now. So you can see now this first lorem starts from here and ends over here. The second starts from here, ends over here. I want a break. I want this to be on a new line. Okay. I don't want a paragraph, but I want this to be on a new line. Okay. So in HTML, even if you do multiple enters over here and if you save, it does not matter because HTML rejects new lines. Okay, so these are called new lines and it rejects all these new lines. It will not uh, consider those things. Now if you want to put a new line, then the tag name is br. Okay, so you just add br over here, save it, and you can see now the new line, the other line comes on a new line. Okay, so it is because of this br. Okay, now if you increase the number of brs, okay, so if I add 3 brs, you can see it goes even no, little down. Okay, so that is the use of br. Okay, but please understand that this is not the way to bring any text down. Okay, so if in C we will be doing such kind of adjustments with the help of css and not using br tags. Okay, so I'm just showing you because I have to demonstrate this break tag. Okay, so this is called the break tag. Now let's see the another tag, that is the horizontal rule tag. Okay, so hr tag. Okay, now hr tag, you can see it basically creates a separation between the two paragraphs. Okay, so it is usually used to create a separation. Now again, we can style this the way we want. Okay, so we will be seeing how to style this later. In fact, we do not even need to use hr at all. We can put a line with the help of other css techniques. Okay, okay, so next let's switch to, okay, so let me just clear out rest of the things, and now let us go to the next tag, that is the image tag. Okay, now with the image tag, you can put an image into your web page. Okay, now this image can be anything. Okay, like for example, let's go to Google. Okay, so let me take an image of smiley face. Okay, somewhere, and I can just right click, copy image address. Okay, and come over here and paste it. If that particular image doesn't have any uh, cross origin validation, then it should work. Okay, just save it and you can see it works. Okay, I have loaded an image onto my page, but obviously it is quite big. Okay, so to reduce the size, uh, you can see now we are going to see what is called as attributes. Okay, so till now whatever tags we have seen, there were no attributes to the tags. Okay, we can add attributes, but we have not seen any attributes till now. Okay, but you can see now the image tag only works if there is an attribute. Okay, so you can see the first attribute is anything inside the tags. Okay, within inside, like for example, if I want to add an attribute in h1 tag, then I have to after the h1 ends and before the greater than symbol, I can add a tag over here. Okay, so in between I can add a tag. I cannot add a tag in the closing tag. Okay, I cannot add a tag in front of h1. Okay, here I cannot add. You can see it has marked it as red. Okay, so that is not allowed. But after the tag name, you can add any number of attributes you want. Okay, the syntax of the attributes is very simple. It will be any text equal to some value. Okay, so this is basically the syntax of an attribute. Okay, it can be anything. Okay, for example, in image, this is the name of the attribute and this is the value of the attribute. Okay, so basically in most of the cases wherever there are attributes, there will be a name and there will be a value. Okay, so it's basically like a key value pair. So you will have a name and you will have a value. Okay, separated by double quotes. Okay, so there has to be double quotes enclosing the values, and those are separated by equal to sign. Okay, so this is very important to understand how attributes are mentioned. So you can see the first attribute, that is the source, that is basically telling you that this is the location of the image from where to load. Okay, now let's suppose I want to control the width of this particular image. Okay, so for that I can add another what do you say attribute, that is width, that is equal to, again, now here I can specify the size in pixels. Okay, so I can say 100 pixels. Okay, here you do not have to mention the unit, it is understood, it is pixels. Okay, so if I save, you can see now the image is reduced to this particular size, that is 100. Okay, so if I change this to 200, it will increase the size. Okay, now the aspect ratio is maintained over here. That means if it's a square image, then if width is 200, then height is also 200. Okay, but let's suppose you don't want that, you want the height to be something different. Okay, so you can put a height also, which is, let's say, 100, and you can see what happens. Okay, so you are trying to give a different aspect ratio, and because of that the image gets squished. Okay, so you should understand that uh, in normal scenarios I would always prefer to use either width or height. Okay, based on the use case. Okay, but I will usually never use both of them together. Okay, because then in that case it will create a problem with the image. Okay, so I can just remove width also, and still it will automatically calculate the width. Okay, so either the width or the height is required. Okay, now finally let's assume that uh, the image link that you have given is invalid. Okay, so some wrong link is given. Okay, so you can see nothing is loaded. Okay, but at the same time I am not getting any information that there is an image over here, right? So for that, what you can do is you can give the alt tag. Okay, so always remember, it is a good practice, whenever you are putting up an image, you should always fill up the alt tag, like let's say smiley, and you can see it immediately tells you that there was some image over here which is not loaded, called smiley. Okay, so this helps us in debugging that there was an image. Okay, so if I now correct it, you can see the image loads, and that smiley is nowhere to be seen. Okay, okay, now the same thing what I can do is, now this was an absolute URL. Okay, so this was the complete URL, but this is not the way we normally do. We normally, what we do is we will right click, save the image and save it to our folder. Okay, so where is our folder? WDL1. Okay, so WDL1, and here I will save the folder. Okay, so now right now you can see it is a web VB file. Okay, so this one will also be fine. Let me just save it. Okay, so you can see I have saved the file, and let me go to, and you can see the file name. Okay, so now I don't want to load it from the URL. I want to load it from my local location. Okay, so for that what you have to do is you just have to copy this file name, come to Visual Studio Code, remove everything that is there. Okay, so over here you can just paste the name of the file. Okay, now if I save it, where is the, okay, if you save it, you can see the image is still loaded. Okay, so advantage of such kind of a thing is, even if the original website from where you downloaded, from where you copied the link, even if they remove the image, because you have downloaded the file locally, so it is advantage in this case that your website will still work. Okay, so that's why normally whenever I use any images, I usually download it to my local place, and then save it. Okay. Now, another important thing is, okay, so there is some question, I think. Yes, there are lots of websites from where you can download images, stock images. Okay, so there is, like Shaista said, Unsplash is there, Undraw is there, then I think, what was the Pexel is there. Yeah, right. So Pexel is there. So these are for stock images. Pixabay is there. So in fact, there are lots of different icon hosting providers also, which provide you with, premium and free icons also. Okay, so there are lots of services. So once you start developing, you will, on your own, you will start finding such resources. Okay, and nowadays SVGs are becoming a lot more famous. So I would suggest everyone to visit this site. Okay, you can search the Google to find out Undraw. Okay, so I like this site personally. Instead of actual images, I like nowadays SVGs more, because they are much more scalable. Okay, so okay, so once this is done, I have now 5 more minutes. I would like to cover one more thing before we stop this session. Okay, so most of the time what happens is, once your project becomes big, you will not want to store all the images in the main folder. Okay, you want it to be organized properly. Okay, so what we normally do is we create a folder called images. Okay, and usually all the images will be inside that particular folder. Okay, so in my case, you can see I've just copied that image inside this. Okay, so now if I come back over here and if I open the web page, you can see it is gone. Okay, reason is, now it is not, it is trying to find the image in the root directory, but it is not there. Okay, so now how to get to that directory? Okay, so basically I just have to add the directory information in front of it, and then it will work. Okay, so directory information is, the folder's name is images. Okay, and you can see now if I save it, now it works. Okay, so images, then this slash, this will tell the browser that it is a folder. Okay, so this particular image is inside this folder. Okay, so that is how we organize. Okay, now much more better way, that normally the way I organize is, I create a folder called assets. Okay, so my assets, which will include my CSS, my JavaScript, my libraries, my images, everything will be inside assets. Okay, so I will be moving everything inside assets. So in the root directory, I will always have only my code. Okay, all the assets or all the other things will be inside my assets folder. Okay, so if I open my assets folder, you can see there is CSS, then images, then there will be JavaScript files later. Okay, so now if I load this again it is gone. Okay, so here it's very simple to resolve it. Okay, so I have created a folder, so assets, images. Okay, so if I save it now you can see this works. Okay, now another way of doing the same thing is by using some that is inbuilt in Visual Studio Code, is using this particular thing, dot slash. Okay, now dot slash means, dot means the current directory. Okay, slash means inside the current directory. Okay, and what Visual Studio does is, it is giving you this interface where you can select what you want. Okay, so I want to go into assets, then I want to go into images, then I want to select this particular image. Okay, so you can see how easy it is if you use Visual Studio Code. Okay, so it is that simple. Okay, okay, so any doubts in the image tag? Okay, so let's move on to the next tag. Okay, there are a few more tags I want to cover in this last session. Okay, so the next tag is very important tag, and in fact is I would say it is the most important tag. Okay, that is the anchor tag. Okay, now the anchor tag is very important to link the pages with each other. Okay, so basically an anchor tag helps you in providing hyperlinks to the pages. That is the reason why this particular uh, markup language was invented. Okay, so basically whenever you design a web page, you cannot design the entire page using a single HTML file. Okay, so basically you will be making multiple pages, like there will be a index page, then there will be a about us page, then maybe there is a contact page, then there is a cart page. Okay, so there will be multiple pages, so each page it has to be linked in some way. Okay, so I have to have a link somewhere or a menu somewhere by clicking on which the contents I should go to that particular page. Okay, so for that we are going to learn how to create a link. Okay, so let us start. Now basically to create a link, what I've done is I have just typed a and pressed tab. Okay, so as soon as I do that, you can see it adds one attribute, it's called href. Okay, so now this for this anchor tag, href is the most important attribute for anchor. Okay, without this it is basically useless for in using a href tag, unless you are using some kind of a JavaScript to click the link. Okay, so unless that is there, then href is mandatory. Okay, so now let us say you want to create a link on your page to google.com. Okay, so what you can do is, now in this particular href you will write the name of the website. Okay, basically with the protocol, so google.com. Okay, so now this is the link that you have provided, and what how the link should look in the browser will be decided over here. Okay, that is on this tag between the closing and the opening tags. Okay, so here I can say Google. So now if I save, you can see uh, there is a link created which is saying Google. Okay, and if I click on that, it goes to google.com. Okay, so that is perfect. It works as it should, and you can see what is the use of this particular uh, anchor tag. Okay, so now what all things you can do is this simple tag can be used to link to your Facebook profile on your profile page. Okay, so you can link to your YouTube channel or something like that. Okay, so all these things can be done with the help of anchor tags. Okay, now if you saw what happened, if I clicked on this, it actually opened on the same page. Okay, so that is the default behavior. Okay, now if you don't want this to happen, and if you want it to open on a new page, then what you can do is you can add another attribute. Okay, the attribute is called target. Okay, so you can see that at the target value, okay, the value can be blank. Okay, so underscore blank. Now when I do this, now if I refresh this and if I click, you can see my page is as it is there, and the Google opened on a new window. Okay, so that is the advantage of using blank. Okay, so by default it is self. Okay, so when I put self, it opens on the same page. Okay, okay, so okay, so now once this is done, now you can see let me just remove this target part from here. Okay, so now if I hover over the link, nothing important is displayed, right? So I want to understand what this link is. Okay, so for that there is a attribute called title. Okay, and in fact this attribute is common for all the tags. Okay, you can apply title to any tag you want. Okay, so in this you can say click here to visit Google. Okay, so if I put this, now if I hover over it, you can see what happens. Okay, so it gives you a hint that click here to visit google.com. Okay, or basically whatever message you typed. Okay, so that is the advantage of using title. Okay, now this is not the main reason why we use anchor tags. Okay, so anchor tags are used mainly to link between pages. Okay, now to how to link pages, for that I have to first create a new page, and you can see already I have a page called test.html. Okay, so let us make that now. Okay, so I have created test.html. What happened? Okay, so I have created test.html, and let me just name it as test page, and the content as, let me just add a h1 test page. Okay, so now if I save, obviously it will not be visible. Okay, because I'm looking at index.html, not test.html. Okay, so let's come back to index. Now I want to link to that particular page. Okay, now to link to that particular page, there are two ways of doing that. Okay, one is called the relative method and another is called the absolute method. Okay, so let's first look at the relative method. Okay, so relative method, it's just like how we added images. Okay, so it is just the name of the file. Okay, so the name of the file is test.html. Okay, that's it. So once we do this, and let's just make this much something meaningful. Okay, so I can see there is a test page. Now if I click on this, it goes to that particular page. Okay, so you can see the URL changed. Okay, but now there is no way to go back to my home page. Okay, so for that I can come to test.html and put a anchor tag over here, which will now go to index.html. Okay, and here I can say index page. If I save, now you can see uh, the test page has, you know, let me just call it as go back. Okay, any name will do. This looks much more reasonable. Okay, so go back. If I press that, it goes to the index page, and if I press on test page, it goes to the test page. Okay, so this is basically how you link different pages with each other. Okay, now let me show you the absolute way of putting this. Okay, so now if you go to test page, you can see the link above. Okay, so the link is this particular entire thing. I can just copy this link and come to index.php, and instead of test.html, that is the relative path, I will put the entire path, and you can see the entire path is the protocol. This is the protocol. This is the separator. This is the address. Okay, because it is an IP address, it is giving you something like this. Okay, and this is actually the port address on which the live server is running. Okay, so you can see it is running on a non-standard port. Okay, if it is a web server, it should be running on port 80, but here it is not running on port 80, it is running on 5500. Okay, but that is fine. You can run your server on any port, unless you know which port you are running on. Okay, then the link to the file. Okay, so now let us see if this works. Okay, let's go back, and now here you can see down the address. Okay, if I click on this, it still works. Okay, so it still works whether you use relative or absolute. Okay, now similarly I can go back and get the index.html and come over here, and instead of relative path of index.html, I am putting absolute path. Okay, absolute basically means the full path. Okay, the complete URL I am putting. Okay, so now if I do this, now if I go to test page, now if I want to go back, it is still it is going back, right? That means what? the web page still works whether you're using relative URL or your absolute URL. Okay. Now, can anyone tell me which one is better? Which one should I use? Relative URL to name the pages or absolute URL? Any suggestions? Resume. Okay. Absolute. Hamza is saying absolute. Adarsh is saying absolute. Okay. Anyone else who has any suggestions or their opinion of whether to use absolute or relative? Absolute is better. Okay, so from the comments, I assume that majority of you are saying absolute is better. Okay, so let me ask one of you. Can anyone tell me, unmute their mics and tell me why? Okay, why do you think absolute is better? Yes, Anwar or Anushka or Vaibhav, Alia, Shabina, Adarsh, Hamza, anyone?
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes, Anwar.
Yes, sir. Absolute path gives the full path.
Okay, so why it is better? Any idea?
No, sir.
No, absolutely fine. Okay, so this was your opinion, right? So you don't know why it is better, right? Anybody else? Vaibhav or anyone? Hamza, Hamza 51.
Hello.
Yes, Alia.
Sir, I'm not sure about this, but I think if in case our web page is in another folder, for example, so even if it gets changed, the absolute part will still link it.
Okay, okay, very good. Anybody else? Specific. Readable is easy for absolute. Shadia. Okay. So now uh, I will explain what I think. Okay. Now, see, this entire subject is all about personal observations. Okay. So what I have observed, okay, there is one more answer, I think. Rizwan personally uses relative paths. Okay. Very good. Okay. So absolute gives a fixed path. Okay. Okay, as far as myself, I use both of them together. Okay, because um, problem with absolute is right now, just an example. Right now, the server is running on this particular address. Okay, and you have copied this and pasted on all of your links. Okay, just imagine next time you start your live server and your port address changed, what will happen? Just think of it. What will happen? Exactly. This is not only the case. If you have seen my last video where I have shown you the host file, I create dummy domains for my testing environment. Okay, so if I use that particular dummy domain for creating links, then if I now when I actually want to transfer it, okay, to let's say for example, I will show you just one example. Okay, so let's suppose mocker.test. This is my domain, development domain, because in development I can use any domain, right? It's my choice. I can even use google.com for that matter, right? So I selected mocker.test, right? But my actual website is mocker.in. Okay, so when I want to put it on the website, you can see all the links that are there. Okay, so mocker.in is the actual website. Now just imagine if you're using absolute paths, then everything has to be changed now before updating your site. Everything has to be converted to mocker.in, right? So that is a biggest problem when you use absolute URL. Okay, whereas when you are doing relative paths, okay, during relative paths, again, what if, as Alia rightly said, what if you change the folder structure? Okay, so let's imagine, let us come over here. Initially your images folder was outside, and suddenly you thought, I want everything inside assets folder. Okay, and you are, remember, you are using relative path again over here, right? So what will happen in that case? Every link you have to change again, because now you are using relative path, right? So that is again the problem. This problem will also arise in absolute also, right? But what I prefer normally is, uh, I will store, I will, in, if I am using only HTML, then obviously I will prefer relative path. Okay, so so that this address doesn't come into picture, I will use this. If I am using only HTML, pure HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Okay, but as soon as PHP comes into picture, okay, then there is an advantage of PHP that you can put this entire thing inside a variable or a config variable. Okay, and you can add that over here. Okay, using, okay, you can do this, you can echo it out, and so in this case you just change the variable once in some file and it will be reflected everywhere else. So that is what we normally do in Laravel and in PHP. Okay, so in Laravel and PHP we use absolute paths rather than relative paths. Okay, it's actually not exactly absolute, but I can say in the actual source code it is absolute, but behind the scenes we'll be using relative paths. Okay, so basically for a developer in Laravel, you will be putting in relative paths, but Laravel does the magic and converts it into absolute path later. Okay, so you will not have to worry about anything. Laravel takes care of everything. Okay, so I wanted to tell you this so that in future if there is a debate which to use, then you can justify yourself why which one to use. Okay, now again, like in images, if this particular file, like for example this test.file was in another folder. Okay, okay, so test.html was in another folder. I will just copy this over there. Okay, so now if I come back, where is Visual Studio Code? Okay, now if I come back and open this test file and refresh this index.py index page, if I click, you can see it is giving me an error, cannot get test.html, because you have changed the location. Okay, now to change that, whether you are using absolute or relative, doesn't matter. If you change the folder structure, then you have to uh, re-update your links. Okay, so you can just come over here and type the name of the folder that is contact/index.html. And now if I refresh and go, it still works. Okay. Similarly, if it is a relative, then this address will not come, only contact/test.html will come. Okay. So one more thing, as soon as you go inside test.html, now you can see it is not working. I cannot go back. Okay. Why? Any ideas? If I click on go back, it is saying cannot get contact/index.html, because in index.html, what you have written is relative path. Okay. So relative path means relative to that particular document. That means test ke relative mein, right? So in that particular document, is there any index.html? So this is test.html. There is no index.html over here. Okay. That's why it is giving you error. Okay. In such scenarios, this is the place where absolute plays a vital role. Okay. So in this case, even if you change the folder structure, the link of the only you have to update the links which you have moved. Okay. Others you don't have to change. But in case of relative, you have to change everything. Okay. Because here you can see this is relative. You have to go back one step, and then you will find index.html. Okay. Any idea how to go back? If you are using relative, if you do /, it means current directory. Okay. But if you do /, okay, double dot means go back one step. Okay. Now if I save it and click, now you can see it works. Okay. So this was using relative path. Okay. The same thing if I would have done using absolute path, then you can see the path of the absolute does not change at all. Okay. Even if the test page changed, the absolute path is still the same. So that is the advantage of using absolute path over test path. Okay. But both have their advantages, both have their disadvantages. Okay. So just to summarize before I go to the next topic, that where I normally prefer, if you're not using PHP or Laravel, and if you're designing only web pages that are using only HTML, then I would prefer to use relative paths. Okay. Reason being, it will not change based on the address of the server. Okay. So that is the main advantage. Only thing is, you have to remember one thing, that you should not change the path. Okay. That means once when you design, achanak se you think that images should be in this folder, and you design the entire page, then you say no, this images folder should be something else. Okay. So if you say this should be photos, that will be absolutely a big mistake for you, because if you change the folder name after you have developed the website, then remember that you have to rename everywhere that you have used that name. Okay. So that is the you know disadvantage. Whether you're using absolute or relative, doesn't matter, it will create a problem, right? So one thing to note is, whenever you're using relative or absolute, stick to the structure that you have decided, and try not to change it. And if you are going to change the folder structure, then see to it that you update all the links. Okay. Okay. So I think, is there any other issues? Okay. Yes, Rizwan, exactly. It would be a pain for pushing it to the production. Rizwan. Yes, that part is there in VS Code, that can be done. In fact, refactoring plugin is also there, which you can use to refactor anywhere inside your code, whether it is in CSS, JavaScript, anywhere. You can use refactoring plugin to change the names, or in fact, once you start developing JavaScript and PHP files, many times you will find that sometimes you want to change the name of the variable, okay, and you do not know where all that variable was used. So in that case, this refactoring helps a lot. You can simply refactor the change the original name and the new name, and everywhere that name is used, it will be replaced. Okay, so that many features such like that are there. Okay, so now similarly, there is this title tag that is there in all the tags. Again, you can use this to tell some info about you can use this to give some info to the user. Okay, so you can see uh, if I go to test page, you can see it tells me go back one step. Okay, so title tag can be added anywhere. Okay, so to any tags. Okay, so let's go take some two more tags that are left. Okay, so what are those tags? Okay, so I will cover this one last tag, and you can do the last one over here, DL, DT, and DD. It's very simple. This tag we will cover, and then we will call it a day. Okay, so let's go back to index.html. We have 10 minutes left. Okay, so in the index.html, now whenever you want to create list items, bullet points or bullet list, then you will use UL or OL. Okay, UL means unordered list and OL means ordered list. Okay, so I will just show you the difference. So again, UL starts with UL and ends with /UL. Okay, and inside that you have to use every element should start with li tag. Okay, so I can say let me call it as name of the fruits. Okay, so mango. Then I can duplicate it and let's call it apple, and let's duplicate it again and let's call it orange. Okay, so now if I save, you can see I create bullet elements. Okay, now these are unordered lists, so there are no numbers. You can change the type of this bullet point by giving an attribute to UL. I think no, it is in the li tag. Okay, so you can tell the type as circle. If you save it, you can see now the dot is converted into a circle, or you can also do type as square, and you can see that now it is converted to square. Okay, so these are the things that you can do with UL and LIs. Okay, now you can also nest these things. Okay, so inside LI you can come down, clear it out, and you can start a new UL. Okay, and inside this you can start a new LI. So that means you can cascade it any number of times you want. Okay, so I can say Nagpur orange and other orange. So you can see now what happens is I will just remove this. Okay, and I can here give a name if I want, let's say oranges, and inside oranges I have two more types, that is Nagpur oranges and other oranges. Okay, so this type of a cascading you can do any number of times. You can again now cascade it further. Okay, so this is UL. Now there is one more thing, that is OL. Again, OL is same. There is LI. Okay, now here LI, you can again you can copy the same thing again. Only difference this time will be, okay, I will just remove this. Okay, only difference is that it will use what do you say, numbers instead of bullet points. Okay, and you can see inside you can cascade, combine ul and ol also. Here you can see the outer one is an ol, and inside I have used ul. Okay, so if I want, I can change this to ol also, and you can see what happens. Okay, and one thing I forgot about telling you is, for tags like br, hr, and img. Okay, so for these tags there are no closing tags. Okay, so you can see there are no closing tags over here, but you can auto close the tags by using this. Okay, so you can do this, which will auto close the tags. Okay, so it is the same thing, but it is much more correct way of doing it, rather than just leaving it floated. Okay, so you can see majority of the tags, in fact most of the tags, will have a opening tag and a closing tag, but only in case of some tags like br, hr, image, there are no closing tags. So for that you will be using this. Okay, auto close tags. Okay, any doubts still here? Let me just remove this, and I want to show you one more thing before we finish. Okay, let me just I will just open this validator.w3.org. You can see this. Okay, and what this page does is, if you look at the HTML file, like in other programming languages, if you do any mistake, let's say for example, I forget to close the h1 tag. Okay, so what happens? Does it give you any error? No, it does not give you any error. In fact, you can see everything is converted into h1. Okay, so that is the problem, right? So there is no error as such, but you can find out if there is an error in your web page by simply going to this particular website, uh, w3.org, and you can just go to the third tab, paste your code and check. Okay, so when you check, you can see it is saying that there is a warning. If you remember, when I created the code, there was a language file, a language attribute. I removed it. Okay, because I wanted to keep it simple, but it is a good idea to keep it, right? Then you can see what all errors it is telling me. HR. Okay, it is telling me HR is not allowed inside h1, right? And then there is a image attribute which is empty. Okay, then ul is not allowed inside h1, right? So all this kind of error message. Let me just complete this h1 and now do the validation again. Let's see what happens. Okay, so in this case, now you can see there are only two errors, one warning and two errors, that the source attribute cannot be empty. Okay, so must not be empty, because I have used image, but there is nothing mentioned over here. So that is one error. Then type attribute of li element is obsolete. Okay, so using this type in attribute is no longer required, because nowadays we will be using css to do this. Okay, so we no longer required to do this. We can use css to change the type of bullet points. Okay, so this is another thing that I missed during the last module. Okay, so this was the only topic left to cover. Okay, so that's it for this particular week. Any doubts still here?